they are, I think, partially responsible for the demise of our democracy.
The midterm elections saw massive turnout, but also massive failures of our democracy.
We begin the readout tonight with tangible evidence that when it comes to the January 6th assault on the Capitol and the attempt to subvert our very democracy.
In a recent NBC News poll, voters cited threats to democracy as the top issue facing the country.
Maybe, just maybe, we might want to change the rules in order to save American democracy.
We are the ones trying to save our democracy.
How can you have a democracy with censorship?
We're a constitutional republic, but I'll use lowercase d democracy as a fill-in, right? Couldn't resist.
A democracy is a political system in which the people periodically, by majority vote at the polls, select their rulers. The rulers then have absolute power to make whatever laws they please by majority vote among themselves. In a constitutional republic, the people also, by majority vote at the polls, select rulers, who make laws by majority vote among themselves. But the rulers cannot make any laws they please because the Constitution severely restricts their lawmaking power. The ideal of a democracy is universal equality. The ideal of a constitutional republic is individual liberty. In this century, great strides have been made toward the goal of subverting our republic and transforming it into a democracy. The foremost tactic of the subverters is subversion of language. By calling America a democracy until people thoughtlessly accept and use the term, totalitarians have obscured the real meaning of American principles of government. Government efforts to achieve material equality will produce crushing tyranny, but will not make people equal. The writers of the Constitution were anxious to safeguard liberty against dictatorship, monarchy they called it. But their chief anxiety was to protect the country against democracy. Edmund Randolph, delegate to the Constitutional Convention from Virginia, said the general object of the convention was to provide a cure for the follies and fury of democracy. Elbridge Gerry and Roger Sherman, delegates from Massachusetts and Connecticut, urged the Constitutional Convention to create a system to eliminate the evils that flow from the excess of democracy. Alexander Hamilton, delegate from New York, said, "We are now forming a Republican government. Real liberty is not found in democracy. If we incline too much to democracy, we shall soon shoot into a monarchy." John Adams, one of the giants of the American Revolutionary period, said, "Democracy will envy all, contend with all, endeavor to pull down all. And when by chance it happens to get the upper hand for a short time, democracy will be revengeful, bloody, and cruel." Speaking of pure democracy, in which the people by majority vote act as their own lawmakers, instead of electing representatives to make laws, James Madison said, "Such democracies have ever been incompatible with personal security or the rights of property." In short, America was founded not as a democracy, but as a constitutional republic. We pledge allegiance to the republic for which our flag stands, not to a democracy. The Constitution requires a republican form of government for all states, but does not mention democracy, and neither does the Declaration of Independence or the Bill of Rights. The Constitution is a binding contract, enumerating limited powers which the federal government can legally exercise, prohibiting it from exercising any powers not granted in the contract. It denies federal officials the power to do whatever they claim to be necessary for the general welfare. Federal action not clearly authorized by the Constitution is illegal, even if approved by an overwhelming majority of the people, because all the elastic powers of government are left with the states. Ultimate power to change the organic structure of government was left with the people, but the means of making changes, amending the Constitution, were carefully prescribed to militate against hasty, unwise decisions by the people. As Benjamin Franklin left the State House in Philadelphia on the closing day of the Constitutional Convention, a woman asked him what kind of government the convention had given America, and Franklin replied, "A republic, if you can keep it." Very old and very wise, Franklin saw through the mists of time to the day when Americans might trade their freedom in a constitutional republic for the promise of government guaranteed equality and security in a democracy. And beyond that, to the day when democracy inevitably degenerates into dictatorship, guaranteeing nothing but poverty and serfdom for the people it robs and rules. The American constitutional system, unique in history, enabled Americans to develop a backward continent into the most magnificent nation of all time. The system was designed to prevent both tyranny by government and reckless rebellion by the people. We must restore it and keep it. And what can you do toward that end? Your job, you who care and understand, is to help educate others.
Checkpoint 1, secured. Checkpoint 2, secured. Checkpoint 3. Checkpoint 3 is secured. All hands secured. Opening bunker.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Wednesday Night Live. So I have some great news on the cost front today. I was planning on doing an in-depth discussion on that very topic that the ticker was covering, because I just keep seeing it more and more, and I feel like there needs to be more content out there that's just focused on explaining to people why the fact that we are a constitutional republic is important, and why we're not a democracy, we're not like a democracy, we're not something sort of similar to a democracy, it's not a democratic republic, all of that nonsense. It just drives me insane. And I'm going to get into it in a bit as to why, as to what I wanted to talk about. But there have been some cause wins, one that came in today that I want to talk about first. So I'm going to get into that over in Idaho. And I want to, some cool stuff has happened with the channel. I'm now able not only to highlight Rumble chats, okay, but I can highlight Twitter chats as well. All right. So really cool stuff. I can highlight Twitter chats, YouTube chats. I don't have one from Rumble, but I can highlight the Rumble chats too. So now everybody gets to be engaged at the same level, which is exciting to me, because for far too long I was limited to, by that simple software I was using. And, now I've gone to this free software. It's more complicated in essence, but it is definitely much better as far as the capabilities. So I'm excited about that as well. And then on Twitter, we're X. Look, if you haven't followed me on X, so if you've been watching the broadcast on the different, on Facebook or on YouTube or Rumble or even Twitch. I don't think we're broadcasting to Twitch right now, though it looked like something was off there. But on any of the major ones, if you've been following me, you know that I'm trying to get this X account going, right? And it's slow going. I know that. I know how this works. I mean, the first, going from 10, I think it was like 7 followers I had, and trying to get up to what I have on Facebook, going to take time, right? It's not going to just 18,000 people. They're going to just get up and move over. But nonetheless, I want to make this effort, and I'm now at 97. So I said my first milestone, and I think other podcasters can agree, your first milestone is the first 100 followers. So I need 3. So I'm hoping, if you're watching here, go ahead and head over to X. Follow me on X. It's at Patriot Think Tank. The T in the middle between Patriot and Think is the same T. All right. That's the only gap. But you'll see it blue check marked. You'll see this wonderful grill right on there. And I would very much appreciate it if you could follow me there. But definitely, I want to know where everybody's watching from. So we should be live right now on at least Rumble, Facebook. Actually, that's not true. I am live now on Facebook, or at least will be in a second. It did not go through the first time, but I'm definitely live on X, definitely live on YouTube, and definitely live on Rumble. So for those folks on those different platforms, and for those that are that were on Facebook, you missed the ticker because it wasn't broadcasting. A lot of moving parts with this new software, but I definitely, there we go. We got the welcome to the broadcast from Facebook. So I am definitely excited to hear your comments. I want to hear where people are watching from. I love it when we get the international folks. I mean, we got about, of the Facebook following, I would say about 6,000 of the 18,000 are from either Canada or Canada. I've even gotten Kazakhstan, but we got New Zealand, UK, Australia. So all people who know, and they tell me this, they message me and tell me this, that they understand the importance of Article 5 to the world, not just to the United States. So, from that standpoint, because they know that if we fall, everybody falls, right? And so if there's a way that we can save ourselves, then they're all in, right? They're going to be cheering us on from the get-go. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to rip the video of the actual hearing. So there was a Senate hearing in Idaho, which was one of the states that we were waiting for. And we've never passed the Senate hearing and committee hearing in Idaho. We've never passed it, but we did today. So, the fire continues. We're stacking the wins. We've got Massachusetts passed one committee. It's moving on to another. We've got Iowa, who passed House committee. We've got Idaho now passed Senate committee. Ohio has presented. So we're moving, right? And we haven't gotten into New Hampshire. We've got opportunity this particular year. And when I listened to this Idaho hearing, towards the end, you kind of got that feeling. It was a Senator Ricks who commented at the very end, and you got the feeling, just like you did in South Carolina and West Virginia and Wisconsin, when we cracked off 4 that year, you got the feeling that they get it now, like they get it now, and I don't know how to explain it. It's like I always talk about, where you got to read your way right into you got to read your way into it, right, in order to get educated up and understand what the founders' true intentions were and all those things. So it's important that that this happens, because the more and more the crises go on, the border and everything else, the more and more state legislatures are looking for solutions. And we see what's going on in Texas, and it's Texas obviously had to take things into its own hands, and it has the backing, right, of other people. It has the backing of other states. So it's one of those things where the states are, there's 26 of them now that are all aligned with Texas. This convention can address, for a while I was saying there's no border solution in this particular convention. That's not necessarily true. So, and Meckler brought this up, with this Texas situation, this is something we can rectify. We can put in an amendment to clarify that states absolutely have a right to defend their sovereignty when the federal government is delinquent in its duty, and which it clearly is right now. So that's something that I'm looking forward to those folks being able to really get on, right? Really jump on board with, and see convention of states as for what it is, for the power that it is, and that the fact is these state legislatures can no longer kick the can down the road. And like, it's one thing if the people are getting apathetic, but the state leaders cannot be. Like, there is no place for that. There's no time for that. The nation can't handle that. It's just not okay. It's not okay on any front. So it's just something that I think, in the end, we've got to get on this now. If you're in any of these states, Idaho, Iowa, New Hampshire, not New Hampshire, what am I thinking of? North Carolina, right? And we're thinking Ohio. If you're in these states, now is the time. And even if you're in a different state, Rhode Island, right? Rhode Island actually, I believe, passed committee. I'm not 100% on Rhode Island. I know they presented, though. But the only loss right now out of all of these things, the only hit we took was in South Dakota. South Dakota did not. They voted not to put the resolution forward. But okay, whatever, South Dakota. Like, you know what? We'll get there. We'll get you educated. Don't worry about it. Grassroots in South Dakota are not going away. Sooner or later, you guys are going to read a book, and you're going to read some Federalist Papers. You're going to read some constitutional, history, and you're going to understand the precedents. You're going to understand what's going on here, what's at stake, and how we can fix it. And I'm counting. We're all counting on the legislatures there and everywhere else to finally pick it up and finally realize, what realize what their obligation is. It's not even, it's almost like being derelict in duty when you don't, when these legislatures don't understand. It's okay that they don't understand. A lot of people don't. When I tell people that, when I point out the fact that they pulled civics out of classrooms in the late 60s and replaced it with that Marxist nonsense, that global social studies, which the very name of it should have been a red flag, but we weren't thinking about it then, right? So we just let it go. But the fact of the matter is, everyone's void of civics. If you're good with civics now, it's because you made an effort on your own to be good with it. It has it has nothing to do with the education system. I can walk up to teachers right now. Oh, I do it whenever I meet teachers. If I remember, I ask them, and I ask them the simple question is, "Hey, what type of governmental system do we live in?" And almost none of them know it. The closest I ever got was Democratic Republic, which was just dead wrong. So it's really not even close. But at least they got the word Republic in there. Every other one says democracy. And that's one of the reasons why, that ticker that I had coming into this Facebook, I apologize. I clicked on with you guys late, and that's why the ticker wasn't there. But the ticker that I jumped on with, I actually released that as I'm going to re-release it again, actually, as a video. And even Trump's in there saying we're just trying to save our democracy. Tucker, we want to save our democracy. Like, even people you respect and like have this in their head, that this, because of the repetition of your whole life listening to people talk about this nation as a democracy and totally disavowing its uniqueness, just completely ignoring its unique nature. And it's not okay. It's not okay. But Idaho's a win. So we got the win in Idaho, at least as far as the Senate committee. Has never happened before. So that's serious progress in Idaho. So shout out to everybody down on the Idaho team there. We were just talking about this last week when I had all the regional directors on. And Catherine's got a few going on there. She's got Ohio, she's got Iowa, she's got Idaho. So that region is on fire right now. And frankly, we're not even at the Northeast where, we're hopeful about Pennsylvania, really hopeful about North Carolina. I believe they've already passed one house there, so one chamber there. So we're just waiting for the other to come on. So a lot of action going on. Definitely subscribe and follow to keep up on this stuff, folks, because I'm telling you, this is history. And you're not hearing about it elsewhere because, number one, people don't half of these podcasters and others, they don't even know. But there are podcasters out there like Steve Deese and Ben Shapiro mentioned it once, but I don't. He's not an advocate the way the grassroots are. Steve Deese is, though. He is. Glenn Beck is. He talks about it from time to time. Obviously, Mark Levin, but most podcasters are not talking about this, and frankly, they don't even know that it's happening. And it's our job to make sure that they do. It's our job. And this is why I'm trying to make that migration over to X, because frankly, when it comes to X, the best chance that I have of trying to get people, to listen is on X. Now, I only have 100 followers there now, so I'm not expecting all 100. It doesn't work that way, right? But if we get it up to 18,000 followers on X, then we're cooking with gas, right? Then we're cooking with gas, because if you get to 18,000, 20,000, etc., they're not going to stop me the way Facebook is. Like, they're not going to do that. They're not going to be shadow banning. I'm not going to have to wonder what they're doing with my content. Why this video? It's just going to go out. People are just going to see it, and the more people that see it, the more people are going to turn around and ask the hard questions, and the more hard answers I'm going to give them, and the more people that are going to sign this petition, right? The link to the petition is right down below, okay? So it's right at the bottom corner of the screen. So you can go to my website. That's not the link to the petition. That's the link to my website. But right on the front page is a button that says, here's the link to sign the petition. And to get involved, to get yourself active, you just need to go and sign that petition. Click the volunteer button, and someone local to you, there's grassroots all over the nation. Every district has a captain, okay? So that person, and if there happens to be a point where, one captain is not in place right now, then a state director will reach. Someone's going to reach out to you, and they're going to let you know what's going on, answer your questions, see if there's anything you can contribute, let you know, where your state's at, all of that fun stuff. And you're going to be put in touch with like-minded constitutionalized people who love and adore the Constitution, and absolutely, your educational, even just from Cause University, which is a series of videos and some other things that really do bring the Constitution into context and give you some history behind Article 5, because we don't really even want you to go out and start. And I say we, and I advocate separately, technically, from Convention of States Project, just so I don't say anything crazy and then they get held accountable for it. But not that I would ever say anything crazy, but at the same time, it's once you sign up with these guys, they're going to take you under the wing. They're going to educate you up. They're going to prepare you to argue. You could be a social media warrior. An outstanding position to be in. I guess I'm technically a social media warrior, but at the same time, you can be out there promoting Convention of States, knocking down people who are trying to do it wrong. You can support this channel and any other channel out there. There's one, I don't know if he's still making videos, but if you haven't seen All Things Article 5 on YouTube, and I believe there's a Facebook page as well, with Kenneth over there, did a great job. Ken Quinn did a great job of debunking a lot of the JBS nonsense. Took up that Robert Brown from JBS, who offered his $10,000 challenge to anybody who could show the founders of this nation believed that they were within their commission, and he won it like 4 times over, to the point where we don't hear that anymore. We don't hear that nonsense anymore, right? But there's that channel out there. Support this stuff. Use it as references, right? Go through the videos. Like if you ever, if someone's ever telling you, oh, Antonin Scalia said, whoa, I wouldn't call it convention. Okay, I got a video out there that addresses that very topic. It slams that little trolley-looking doo-doo from JBS, right over the coconut. Right over the coconut, he gets it. Because it was embarrassing what he did in that video, and I knocked him out for it. And I went ahead and just, piece by piece, just trashed that whole video that they tried to do, saying that Scalia was not. Scalia was 100% in support of Convention of States. He absolutely believed that it was the path to set the federal government straight. That ultimate check, like I've been saying, changes the relationship between the federal government and the people forever. Forever. Like 250 years from now, they're going to be teaching it in school, how the entire nation turned around. How it this whole nonsense, all empires fall. It's not an empire. I mean, it is, but it isn't. By definition, it's really not. The fact of the matter is, what the United States is 100% unique. So holding it to standards that all of these risen and fallen empires have done, they all followed the same formulas. We don't follow that formula, nor do we have to follow that formula. There's no precedent for a nation like the United States. There is none. Don't ever let somebody tell you that there is. There is none. The United States is unique in every way. And it is the only free nation on this planet. The only truly free nation. All right? And it's because we are a constitutional republic. And that's going to lead me right in. Okay, the fact of the matter is, we are a constitutional republic, not a democracy. And when you hear people make those claims and try to off-put it as if somehow they weren't miseducated, and they try to say, oh, well, it's the same thing, and they come up with all these roundabout arguments to try and bring it back to saying it's a democracy. It has one thing in common with a democracy. People vote for elected officials. After that, we're done. It has nothing. Every single other bit about our system is completely different. So what are the differences? Well, for one, in a democracy, and by the way, if we were a democracy, we would have hate speech laws right now. Like, they wouldn't just be trying to circumvent and go around through social media to get them to shadow ban people like me and other patriots out there trying to tell the truth. They wouldn't just be doing that. They'd be outright making laws against it. But they can't, because even after they're elected, they are not the ultimate authority. The Constitution is. And in a democracy, that is not the case. In a democracy, those people get elected, and then after that, they can go and legislate away. And they'll tell you, well, if you want change, elect someone different. But the fact of the matter is, it's not about wanting change. It's about what you're allowed to do and what you're not. You can't make a hate speech law here because you can't touch speech. You can't take our guns from us, no matter how hard you're trying with all of your little local laws and magazine limits and all these weird gadgets you got to put on your rifle to make it almost unusable. With all of that, it all keeps getting shot down as unconstitutional. And that's a huge difference, right? That is the reason why we are not a Marxist nation today. It's the reason why these doodadoos can spend up to, what has it been now, 70 years trying to ideologically subvert the country. And yeah, they have done it. They have infiltrated our schools. They have infiltrated, the different areas, the legal system. Well, to some degree, the legal system. Certainly, there are federal judges out there who are in the tank. No doubt about that, right? But they've gotten to Hollywood, they've gotten our education system, but yet still, all these other countries fell already. Nobody takes 70 years to subvert. And they got our kids running around thinking that there's like 95 genders and all this stuff. I get it. But in the end, it's not about what they're trying to do, it's about what they can do. And while we watch the onslaught and the assault, and people are like, well, they haven't followed the Constitution. This is another argument. They haven't followed the Constitution yet. Why would we think they're going to follow it now? And my response is always the same, right? And I keep this up here just for that purpose, okay? They follow the Constitution. They follow that Constitution, that big 3,000-page behemoth that includes every Supreme Court decision that ever bastardized the Constitution in it. Everyone. That's what they refer to. When these things go to the courts, it's that big dookie book that they pull out, not the pocket version. Gorsuch, Alito, and Thomas, they're looking at the pocket version. But Amy Barrett and Kavanaugh and Roberts and the rest of the Democrat, the leftist doodadoos on there, Kagan and Sotomayor, etc. Those people, they don't look at the Constitution at all. They look at the New York Times. I don't know what those people are. But in the end, this is the Constitution that they're following, and it's not. The idea of the convention is to pull pages out of that big one until it starts looking more like that smaller one. That's the idea. And all of the small decisions that have been made over the course of time to this Constitution, all of them, right? And there were big ones too, right? Like the interpretation of the Commerce Clause is just what the hell's going on. Commerce Clause interpretation is a hot mess. We absolutely need clarity under the fiscal restraints topic for that. Like, everything somehow you could argue will go over state lines. That's not what it was designed to be. But it is, right? This is how we correct it. There's only one way to correct it. When standing up and saying what you've done is unconstitutional, when the Supreme Court in some way, shape, or form has allowed it, you're screaming at air. Screaming at air. That's all you're doing. And you can sit there and be like, well, then we're going to have to go Second Amendment. Why would you do that? They're just going to storm in, lock you up, and you'll be the next case of January 6th. They would love for you guys to do. They would love nothing more than the people who try and flex Second Amendment rights on the government. It would just be this mass incarceration, and they'd be done with it. Now they'd have you all locked up. No, the answer is peace. The answer is peaceful. The answer is using this brick, this rock that we have in the Constitution. That is the answer. And even though state senators or state legislatures gave away tons of power with the 17th Amendment, there's still a failsafe to not only undo that, but to get, to exercise real power in reining in this child of the states. And that's what the federal government is. But when it comes to a constitutional republic, as opposed to a democracy, it's the Constitution that we all lean on. And it's that brings clarity. It's that so there will always be, even after this convention, and there will be a convention, even after this convention, there will always be a court at some point in history who's going to make a bad decision. Right? Citizens United, I mean, there's a laundry list. They're going to make bad decisions. But when they do make bad decisions, then there's a mechanism for us to stop that, right? So, and without this being a constitutional republic, there would be no mechanism. Like, people get angry about elections and this and that. Like, I agree. I share your anger with the state. The fact that 50%, more than 50% of the population right now has little to no faith in our election process is disturbing on its best day. On its best day, it's disturbing. But the fact of the matter is, we don't have to just live with that. And not only do we not have to live with it, we don't need to depend on it. In other words, when it comes to the overarching issues, not of who we elect, but what those elected people do when they get in, what they can do when they get in, and more importantly, what they cannot do when they get in. That is where the power lies. That's where it lies. The relationship, and I've said this a million times, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what gets ratified out of this convention. It really doesn't. Why? Because it's still going to be a success. And you say, well, George, why would it still be a success? Well, it's still going to be a success because the real power here comes in proving we can do it. And when I watched this hearing today, I listened to good Americans get up and display a ton of ignorance and fear. That's what I heard. Now, there were plenty who were proponents of it, and the grassroots, God bless. But for the naysayers, what I was just, I mean, some of the stuff, at least 4 times they questioned, how on earth are these delegates going to be selected? How could we trust any? They're literally talking to the people who are going to select the delegates, talking about how they can't trust the people who are going to select the delegates. Like, the fact that they can't even figure out how that works, like they didn't even take the time to figure out how that delegate process works. And they're looking for it all to be written directly into Article 5, which it cannot be because it's left to the states. So Iowa's process may be very different from Idaho, which may be very different from New York, and very different from Pennsylvania, very different from Alabama, etc. Each state creates its own process for selecting delegates through its legislatures. The idea that they can't figure that out, or they think that the people that are in those legislatures are too incompetent. One of the things they said, oh, well, we don't have any James Madisons today. It's another popular one. There are no George Washingtons and James Madisons and Thomas Jeffersons today. Well, it's important to remember that at the time that the founders had put these documents together, they weren't revered the way they are today. They were respected as statesmen, but there were no Thomas Jeffersons and Hamiltons, etc. then. They became such after making some really good, well thought out decisions in putting together the Constitution. There were plenty of people who would have said Hamilton was a jerk-off. There's plenty of people who would have said Jefferson was a jerk-off. Adams was, like, the list is long. They would call each other jerk-offs. So, I mean, the idea that there's no matter, like there'll never be great men again. Like, there'll never be great people, who can step up to a challenge again. Like, that was a flash in all of world history. There was only those people could do it. I mean, it's lunacy. It's lunacy. But I understand the fear, but I don't understand why they cannot overcome it. There were people who got up there and started talking about stuff like, well, George, and this is not completely uncommon. But when you listen, and I encourage you to go to Convention of States Project YouTube channel or Rumble channel. It's not on the Rumble channel. I watched it, but it's not on there, and I can't find it. But I know that it's up on the YouTube channel, and go there and watch that, and just see. Go to Convention of States Project, and then it should be right up top with the live videos, and listen to the arguments that are being made. One woman came up and basically gave this completely uninformative scare attempt with about George Soros. You guys should know that George Soros is heavily interested in this, and the Young Turks and the this. And she lists off all of these like Marxist psycho groups, never once explaining how exactly they're involved in this. Never once explained. Someone just came to that woman, who seems like a good woman, a nice. I mean, I don't know her story, but she seems, she's a little older. She's probably late Gen X or Boomer, and she's in there and she's talking, nice or whatever, but she's giving nothing as far. She's just literally, someone told her the boogeyman is coming, and she went up and regurgitated it. And she never asked the person who told her, well, how do you know the boogeyman's coming? Did you look under the bed? Did you check the closet? She didn't check. She didn't ask any questions. She just ran into the bedroom and screamed, the boogeyman is coming. And it's not uncommon. This is exactly what happens more times than not. This is exactly what happens, is that people will, they get told these things, and then suddenly they're like deer in the headlights. They're fear locked. They can't do anything. And it just drives me nuts. We got Voice of America. I saw you when I was watching the the hearing today. Since Soros and JBS are non-admitting allies. Yeah, they are. And that's something that I try to tell people about them. Let's try, like, people want to talk about JBS, JBS. I'm sorry, I forgot the quotes for the BS. But they try and act like JBS is this holier than thou conservative organization. JBS is full of garbage. This is an organization that spent the entire beginning of its existence trying to call a convention of states. And suddenly, decades later, they're the authority in whether or not a convention of states can be called. Not to mention all of the nonsense, lies, and everything else. And their entire argument, when you watch these hearings, you will see that the Soros groups they're making the exact same argument that JBS is. The same argument. But while they're there, right, the League of National of Women Voters or whatever, and Common Cause, like, while these people are there, they're arguing, for those types of things. Meanwhile, they actually are Soros groups. It's just absolutely nuts. Absolutely nuts. Danny Mayer, how are you? Good to see you on Facebook. Laugh Out Loud, very common. Absolutely. Bob Dorbin. A good thing you guys are. I was starting to think the chat wasn't working. I was like, I've been playing with this chat. I actually went live yesterday on YouTube and Twitch, because those are the two where there are just no viewers. I just went on there. I'm using them now for like testing stuff. But now, fortunately, I'm able to get a lot of this stuff, features and stuff going. So I'm kind of excited about that. Let me know what you think of the new look for the backdrop too. I'm still playing with that. That's going to change slightly as time goes on. But let me see what we got here. So yeah, Bob Dorland, how are you, sir? This is true that. JBS over on Rumble. JBS fight Article 5 when Russia killed their chairman in the call fight shoot down. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he says, sorry, I was in a state call till 9. Yeah, and that's East Coast time, right? So I get that. I get a lot of, I got all my East Coast folks, and I'm like forcing them all to gauge and whatnot late. But I will tell you this, folks, for those, and I don't have a viewer count right now, so I have to go to like every one individually. I had to guess Rumble. Yep, Rumble's got about 15 on there. YouTube's probably got none. Let me see. Which is normal. That's why I use YouTube for testing stuff. But Twitter, folks, Twitter. So Twitter right now, there's no viewers. There are people that come on later on and view, but but the fact of the matter is we're growing. I'm growing this Twitter, and I'm at 97. 97, I tell you. I need 3 followers on Twitter to hit my first milestone. So, and again, if you're not familiar with how growing these channels work, because you have like other stuff to do in life, 100 is your first milestone. And then when you get there, like even though I'm at 18,000 now, whatever, with Facebook, right? They only send my stuff out to like, 10 people. So I'm trying to get off of that. I want to, there are a lot of people who come and check out the page manually, which I definitely appreciate. And I see that as they come in and comment afterwards, knowing that those like videos they're watching are not being distributed. So I appreciate that from the Facebook folks for sure. But the fact that I get more viewers on Rumble with 675 or so subscribers, or 670 something subscribers, and I have 18,000 on Facebook, that's just crazy. But that's just real talk. So yeah, I said, yeah, it's East Coast time. Bob says, looking great, good. I'm assuming you're talking about the setup, so that's awesome. Yeah, I'm starting to get the hang of this thing. I switched to what's called OBS Studio, which is completely free, by the way. It's open source, completely free, and is so much more feature rich than any of the paid stuff that like I don't know what I've been doing my whole. Add one more to Twitter. Yeah, that puts me at 98. 2 more, folks. 2 more, and we're rocking on the first target. So it's been about 2 months or so that I've been actively engaging in X and actively trying to grow that following. And truth be told, I started the account, a couple years ago, I guess 3 or 4 years ago. But I never engaged in it. I didn't like Twitter. I didn't like the fact, I don't have to explain to this audience, right? Why I didn't like Twitter. So, but now that Musk is there, and I'm really getting the feel that, like just like Rumble, right? Like I'm still trying to grow that Rumble channel too. Rumble's been slow going, but Twitter, I think, can be a lot quicker. Twitter, I think, the thing is, once you get to 100, slowly moves. You start moving a little bit faster. You get to 200 or 300, it starts moving a little bit faster, because if they're doing it honestly, as you grow in followers, they start distributing your content more. So like right now, they may have sent it to all 100 followers on Twitter, but and the cool thing is, for if you guys are on Twitter, I can put up Twitter. I can, the same way I got Voice of America up here now, I can put Twitter comments up as well, which is pretty cool. So it's really, this software is really unifying everything. Laugh out loud. I am open source to the hilt, running Linux, Mint. Oh man, OS and all open source software. Yeah, that if you're running Linux, then yeah, you're you're definitely more open source than me. But for me, it's this software. It's complicated. Like right now, to get all this stuff to work, I got a lot of things open and a lot of things going on. But it was worth the educational experience, because I do care about this channel and I do care about this mission, and I wanted to make sure that I was given the best experience and engaging as many people as I can, and that's where bringing in these different networks. And I've talked in the past about stopping the stream to YouTube. I may do that. So if you are watching on YouTube, if by some fate of chance that that you actually are one of the YouTube subscribers that actually got a notification, I would definitely go over to Twitter and follow me there. If you're not on X or you don't use it, then maybe Rumble or even Facebook. If you're not using it at all, you can click the get all notifications from the follow tab. But in the end, it YouTube to me, I mean, it's a waste of bandwidth. And this new software is a lot lighter, so it's not. I don't have the bandwidth issues as much, but it's just a waste of bandwidth over. The only reason I keep stuff on there is really for the 1,400 or so that I grew while I was still trying to grow the channel, and before I just stopped trying to grow it altogether. But if you don't make YouTube your only source, if you want to keep up with what's going on with Convention of States, both with me and with Cause Project, Convention of States Project, you definitely want to get over, because they've gotten hit by YouTube a few times too. I've been banned on YouTube, I think 8 times, 9 times suspended, and they shut you down for a week, and then 2 weeks after that, and then it's just, I don't have patience. I just it is what it is, But I'm curious to know, from the people watching this, whether you're watching live or if you pick it up later, you can leave in the comments. Then, if you hit, like, I'm assuming that it bothers everyone as much as, I guess that's an assumption that I'm making, that it bothers everyone else as much as it does me, this whole democracy versus constitutional republic thing. So my question though is, if you hear somebody say it, right? If you hear somebody make that statement that, like, oh, well, our democracy is this and that, we got to save our democracy or whatever it might be. If you're in that situation, does it bother you and you just keep walking, or do you interject and then correct people? Because I'm now at the point where I even step into strangers' conversations, and I'm like, no, it's a constitutional republic. It's important you understand. But it drives me even wilder when freaking politicians do it, because it's like, I don't expect everybody that runs for office to be a scholar on the Constitution, but for the love of God, at least know the type of system of government that we have in the United States. Like, it's one thing when someone else says it, like the average Joe says it. I say I interject in a conversation. I don't get all crazy with them. I just educate them. When a politician does it, I kind of do get a little crazy. So, Danny, thank you for following on X. Where does that leave me now? Where am I? Let's see. I am at that. I'm still showing 98 followers. I don't know. Maybe it takes a minute to update, right? That's probably. All right, so we'll give it a minute. 2 more away, though. Let's say 101 can't hurt. 2 more away. Danny's saying you can follow me for, yeah. You know what, Danny? I will. Let me go ahead and got my notifications here. I got your follow, and now, Danny, I am following you. And I don't do the whole follow for follow thing. I noticed that's a thing on X, but I definitely, if I like someone's content, I will follow back. I just, a lot of these people are like, follow me, and I'll follow back, and I'm like, no. I'm like, I want the following to be legit, right? Like, if I gotta wait longer, like I did that with Facebook too. Like, Facebook took off like a rocket because they were putting my content up on watch. They were really just throwing me out there like they would treat anybody, like they would treat a cooking channel, until they had to start paying me. Then all of a sudden it stopped. I made like $1,000 the first month on like 2 videos, and then that was it. That's when all the heavy shadow bans came on. Like, I was on the radar, and it was, I was rising too fast there for Facebook's taste, and They made me break down walls to continue, but screw them. I'm going X, and that's and that's the point, right? And Rumble and X, like these are the places where you want to be, you know. And I realize that. I realize, you know, I realized that I knew Rumble was really before X was taken over by Elon Musk. I knew Rumble was a place that I wanted to grow, and I knew that it was a space that I wanted to be. And it's just, you know, when Facebook wasn't banning me or wasn't, you know, playing with the views and the distribution, it was growing so fast that I couldn't not pay attention to it. You know? And obviously they put the brakes on, but like every now and then they loosen the ties, and I try to put out another produced video, which usually does well. You know, but then after it they end it because it's always the topics, right? I'll put something out on Xi Jinping and it's poof, or WF poof. It'll do well in the beginning, and then all of a sudden it's like done. You notice that when they stop it, you notice the stop. That's what's crazy about it. Notice the stop. That's how hard of a stop it is. Not even subtle about it. Pretty late. Rebecca said, "Follow me too." Yeah, I can't follow back unless you get followers. Is that right? You can't follow back unless you get followers? Saying on Rumble is saying you should follow back on Twitter because of their ration thing between the following and followers numbers. Yeah, I don't know what the ration thing is, so I'm gonna claim ignorance there. But what I will say is I don't mind following back to people. Like I don't mind that. It's just I don't number one, I don't want to cloud my feed. Like you guys are fine. Like obviously anyone who's following my channel and is active and is, you know, contributing to the channel, like obviously I want to follow you guys. Right. But the average, you know, just to every single person that follows to follow back, I just feel like it's gonna pollute my feed. Maybe I'm wrong, you know, but it just seems to me like if I just, you know, I don't even look into the person, I don't even know what they're about, and I'm like following them just because they followed me. It just seems to me like I'm gonna have a lot of dead weight followers that are like not, you know, they're following me just because I follow back, and it's like they're not following me because they want to learn, you know, civics and they want to learn, you know, they want to expand their thought process, see a different angle on things, etc. Right? Like I don't. Those are the people that I'm really looking for. But I mean, like you might be right in the sense that like quantity, I guess, if they see that I have all these followers, right, then all of a sudden it's like, oh well, to distribute him more, which then would help. But I don't know. Maybe you're right. I gotta work through that one. Uh, right now, you know, I'm just trying to follow people that. Danny says I've been helping others and not getting the love back so much. Yeah, yeah, you know, and that's the thing. I don't know. And I know voice you're saying that that's right. What I just said about the whole they'll distribute you more and stuff. You're probably right. I don't know the Twitter landscape that well, so I'm still kind of, you know, I'm still kind of a rookie at this. I mean, I definitely not intuitive how the stuff works. Like when I'm seeing replies from people and I'm hitting them, like I didn't realize you have to scroll up. Like why would I know that? You know, so I'm like, what's he replying to? Like, it took me like 2 days someone to tell me, dude, just scroll down, and I'm oh okay. So it's interesting, but anyway, I'm just curious though, from the standpoint of that convention of that not convention the constitutional republic. You know, my attitude is that everybody should do what I'm doing and interject and explain to people what the difference is. And maybe you don't know, right? That's why I kind of did this broadcast, and I might put together a regular separate video, which generally gets better distribution than the live events, and I may just put together a separate video that just discusses that. That just brings, you know, maybe even make a series of short videos that discuss one piece at a time, just for the sake of, you know, because I just feel like that content needs to get out more because there just aren't enough people that are pissed off about it. They're just, and everybody who is pissed off is not like a big name that's going to get 1 million viewers or, you know, whatever. You know, it's always someone like me who's still struggling to come up and is on topic and is, you know, is on a niche and, you know, that sort of thing. But it just kind of drives me nuts. Sharing information, action. What's been a free service? Saying, are you saying Twitter? Sure, but anyway, so that's my thing. I feel like more people need to be active. It's not enough to just know that we're a constitutional republic. Like, not knowing that puts this nation at a great disadvantage going forward. It puts us all in a great disadvantage. Just not only to know it, but to also understand that, like, it's not just about words matter. Like, words matter. The way that, you know, you say, well, how did, you know, people just waking up now and they're like, I don't understand how they took over our education system, how they took over Hollywood, how they took over this. You know, the fact that they did take it over, this is where words matter. Okay, this is where political correct comes in. This is, you can say this, but not that. This is okay, but that's frowned upon, right? And the same thing happened with democracy and constitutional republic. They took it, they stuck social studies into the education system, and they continually used the word democracy out of context for decades on end. That's why Trump is on the buzzer too. Because everybody, my entire lifetime, people have been calling this a democracy. I'm 50 years old now. My entire lifetime, everyone, unchecked, has been calling this a democracy. And, you know, it wasn't until, and I'm not going to sit here on a high mountain either. Like I said, if you understand civics, it's because you went out yourself to understand civics and understand the way the government works. Before I got involved in, you know, in starting this channel and advocating for convention of states, you know, I really didn't understand how state legislatures worked. I mean, I always looked at them like, well, it's like a little Congress, which in some ways it is. But as far as the founders' intentions, that all of our grievances should be put through our local legislatures. Like the fact that, you know, it wasn't until later in life that I started learning these things. And then I started becoming fascinated and going after it and learning it more. And now here I am, like, preaching it, you know, from the pulpit. But it's like, I don't know. It's just one of those deals where I feel like if every American who does understand and understands the real difference between the two, because I even hear, like, I see videos where someone will actually step in and say, like, this is or they'll be getting interviewed by some leftist. And you know, and the leftist is talking about a democracy, and the guy, well-intentioned, is like, it's not a democracy, it's a constitutional republic. And then the leftist throws out some wackadoo garbage that he probably learned from one of his Marxist professors, and the dudes and the guy who was right and said it's a constitutional republic doesn't even understand what the guy on the left said, and then it makes him look right. Right? So like there's damage being done. Our youth have been completely miseducated from a historical completely. So have we, but we're old enough now to have been able to garner the real information without, you know, without all the omissions and everything else. We were able to overcome that. Many of us haven't, but at least a lot of us have. So there's that. Oh, wow. You got 5,975 following now. That's not bad. You had 7,500 before the Twitter purge. I have never felt it was unmanageable. Yeah, okay. So maybe that's the case then, right? And if you got 5,900, the Twitter purge, I'm not sure what that was. I'm guessing that was the bot thing, right? Where they cleared out. Is that the era where, like, Musk was about to come in and take over, and then all of a sudden, all these lefties who had like tens of thousands of followers, like, were losing, you know, or they'd have like 100,000 followers and they'd lose like 40,000 followers overnight because they were cleaning out the bots before before Musk got there. I don't. That's what I remember. I remember that happening and them all crying about it. I thought it was just the funniest I've ever seen. I hesitate to follow, and I think they won't follow back. Much of that I can't follow anyone new. Yeah, I'm all right. Maybe I got to understand the Twitter culture a little better. Maybe that's maybe that's what this is about. Is that I'm not. I just don't. I mean, right now though, honestly, in 2 months to get up to 100 followers, like without without being absolutely possessed and without doing follow back and all that stuff. I mean, it's a pretty steady pace. I mean, when I looked at it, I remember years ago when I was doing the YouTube channel and trying to get that off the ground, they were saying it should take 2 months or so to get your first 100 followers. So the fact that I'm about to get there, and I think I'm probably two. Am I still 2 away? I am, yep, still. So I'm 2 away. So let's see if we could get those 2 this evening. That would be outstanding. And then, so yeah, if, okay, so yeah, so I mean, look, in the end, look, here are my two points that I want to leave people with is that I want people, if you hear someone saying that the United States is a democracy and you don't know how to argue back, it's a constitutional republic, but you don't know exactly what that means and what those differences are. My ask of you is to learn that. And I will be happy. I will be very happy for you to bring any of these people onto one of the Wednesday night broadcasts, and I will tackle it with them there. And I will be happy to go through it with them and explain in grave detail exactly why it's not. But it's more important that you understand. It's more important that you get why. You understand reasons why it's not. Because it's not like the more people that understand that, the more people you'll stop having these ignorant people running around talking about getting rid of the electoral college. All these people running around talking about, well, we can come up with hate speech laws and we can do this and that. Like they believe, these people, that these things can be voted into existence. And a lot of America believes that. And there's a problem there. Now, fortunately, the system itself has held, but it's a problem. And I really want to see, I mean, if there's one thing that I could contribute from this channel, besides, obviously, hopefully educating some people on Article 5 Convention of States, why it's the only solution as big as the problem, why it's the only, literally only path. And I want to turn that light on for you the way that it was turned on for me. That's what I want to do. So let me get through some of Danny and Royce got a few more comments here. We'll get through them, and then we're going to call it a day because I had a rough day at work today, so it was tough run back in here. But a few weeks ago, took my AR for a walk with my flag. Stein said that I have the cons. Can't see the. Oh, okay. You spelt. I see it over here. You spelt the Constitution with crosses. Is it? Oh, it said save the Constitution. You put the crosses in there. Is that because you think they're going to ban you off Facebook for talking about the Constitution? We're not far away from that. They just announced last week that they're going to like embrace the shadow banning thing and like embed it into their systems. I'm like, how are you arguing? You've always had this in your systems. I don't even know why that was an announcement, but it is what it is. Have you ever heard of the Dumb Show? No, but I'm glad that you're not calling me that. So don't unfriend me show. Yeah. The Don't Unfriend Me Show. That's actually a hilarious name. I could do a few tweets and to get those 2 followers you want. Yeah, absolutely. Do them. Need to get to. I got to get across that finish line, man. It keeps my psyche going, makes me think that I'm on the right path. You know, funny, but you're right. Maybe I should go back and start following some people that. I mean, I don't know how to tell if. I guess what turns me off is just the person who actually says I follow back. Like, I guess that person, because then I look at them like I'm like they're suspect. I look at them like, you know what, man, you're following ain't. He's got a bunch of people following back. But I'm probably overthinking it, and you're probably right. And it's probably no reason for me to be that way. But do me a favor, and if you do send those tweets out, just send them to people who are constitutionally minded and would enjoy the content. I don't want to. That's really my concern. Like, that's where I really get. I did this with Facebook. I did this with, it took me longer to get the following, but I felt that I had a much better following in the end. And so I just want to, now that it's a young, it's in a young state and it's only, approaching 100 followers, I don't want to poison it, with it. That's my only concern. But I guess what you're saying makes sense too. Maybe, Twitter's going to distribute you more with more followers. Maybe that's just the path. Maybe I can educate some of these doos. Maybe they'll stumble upon me because they followed me, and now all of a sudden they're taking district captain positions. Different perspective. Okay, those folks who say they will follow back are being cordial and sharing. Yeah, I suppose so. I guess it's, what it is. Again, I'm not familiar with the Twitter platform, so like when it comes to Facebook and YouTube and Rumble, like, I don't like to get into that. I mean, I don't mind following somebody. Like, if a podcast or something followed me, and I knew it, and I saw their podcast and it was interesting, then absolutely. I just, the whole exchanging thing. Like, I know on YouTube it was always frowned upon to, like, subscribe to each other, get a bunch of people to go back and forth with subscriptions. Like, YouTube actually had an algorithm that prevented you from getting any more distribution. I don't know how that all. But anyway, all right, folks. So I'll be on next Wednesday. So to everybody out there, a couple of last words. Number one, if you hear people doing the democracy thing, speak up, right? If you're not educated on it yourself, then educate up, right? And don't be a jerk. Just, cordially let people know, like, that's not our system of government. It's not close to our system of government. There's nothing similar with that in our system of government. Plain why. And then secondly, get to sign the petition. The link is it's actually for here, right? So get to that link. It'll take you to the conventionofstates.com link page where you can sign the petition. Click volunteer. Folks, this is how we do it, right? Big wins happening right now. So definitely, wherever you're watching from, make sure you're following or subscribing and getting alerts. I'm going to be coming on. If there are big things happening midweek, I'm going to come on, or weekend or whatever. It won't happen weekend, but if it happens on Friday or Monday or whatever, I'll still come on and talk about it and let you know that it's happening. We follow all this stuff. The grassroots follow all this stuff. And you should too. And it again, as the wins start stacking, we want to know who's going to be state number 20, 21, 22. When we start getting to 23 and 24, you're going to start hearing about convention of states a lot more in mainstream. You're going to see JBS with their pals, on MSNBC and whatnot, talking about how that's going to destroy the world. You're going to see that like every day. So, but you could be the one who's like, you know what? Yeah, I've been following this. Right? Be a part of history. Be a part of history. All right, folks. Until next week.